John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum is a very anticipated movie for me. This is the third chapter, of course, in the great action franchise of the John Wick franchise, which I absolutely adore the first two movies. John Wick Chapter 1 and John Wick Chapter 2 were really great for me. They were just so consistent in the action part, and I really was excited to see the third installment. And I'm going to talk about John Wick Chapter 3 because there's a lot of elements that I really loved in this film. There's a lot of elements that I didn't like. Let's talk about, of course, the thing we go to these movies for, and that's the action. The action in John Wick 3 is the thing that saves the entire film for me. The action is how action should be filmed. It is absolutely amazing. Incredible wide shots, incredible takes, like really long takes. There's so many great fight scenes and action scenes. The choreography is amazing. You gotta give props to the stunt team here. The stunt team is so great in this movie. Keanu Reeves also fantastic in the action scenes as usual. This has the best action, I feel, of the three movies. There's this incredible knife fight scene at the start that was gruesome and thrilling. There's the last 30 minutes of this movie, without spoiling anything, was the best 30 minutes of any John Wick movie. That 30 minutes, some people would say went on for a little bit too long, but that I'll leave into my issues in a minute to tell you why I actually really loved that. It was awesome to see this much action in 30 minutes. It was one of the most thrilling, exciting, and when he shoots someone, gets stabbed, there's a lot of moments where you really feel it when people get killed and John Wick gets hurt. Let's talk about the pacing here, because this is one of the most important things in action movies. Action movies rely on pace a lot, I feel, to be entertaining, and in some ways this is where John Wick 3 fails. So I'm going to get into the issues now before we get into more positives later on. The main issue I have with this movie is with the pace and the plot, because the first 15 to 20 minutes basically takes place straight after the second movie with the excommunicado thing, where he's got the bounty on his head and everyone's after him. This was really cool to see, him running down the streets with his dog. There's some really good dog moments here. Was really entertaining, and just brutal awesomeness for the first 15 minutes, and the last act of the movie is just awesomeness as well. It's the second act I have a real problem with. There is action there, but there's not much of it. The reason why this second act I don't like this much, because it's really boring. I got really bored during this movie. In the second act, I was really waiting for it to pick up. And the reason why, there are moments, it's not just because there was less action here, it's because the plot wasn't strong here. The narrative here isn't strong. There is no real good plot here, which I'm fine with. But at the same time, at least put more into the character. I didn't really feel John Wick had much motivation here. It's just boring. It's just events to fill up the screen time. And then also the second act sets up things that just don't matter anymore. It sort of feels like a massive waste of time, when we could have had some really badass action sequences. And I'm not saying that I hated this movie when there was no action sequences. I still liked it. It's still perfectly directed. It's just that I found myself really uninvested in the plot of this film, which I shouldn't have done. And the first two John Wick films, which I think are stronger than this one, are stronger because the moments where there isn't action, I'm still loving it. Here, when there isn't action, I'm not enjoying the movie. But when there's action, and gratefully there's a lot more action than there was in the first two, I'm loving it. When there's action in this movie, it is fantastic. If I had to rate this movie just on the action, this movie's a 10 out of 10. Of course. But my main problem is, when there's no action, the movie sort of feels uneventful. There's some really good moments. I love how the film ended. I would love to see more John Wick films. I cannot wait to see if they make a Chapter 4. And I was really excited. But some of the things in here did disappoint me. I felt the pacing was off. I felt the second act just was a little bit boring. Not that I didn't like what was going on. We got introduced to a lot of different characters, like Halle Berry's character, which I thought was pretty decent in the movie. I thought the villains were pretty weak here, but there was a lot of really good moments with them. There was a few good comedic moments within the action, and as I said, the action is amazing, because the thing is with these John Wick films, we go to these movies for the action sequences, but between those action sequences, I didn't find the plot all that interesting. I thought the characters and narrative were much weaker this time, but the action was a lot stronger. But, as I said, I went to this movie for the action, and on the action basis, this movie delivered. So, I can't quite get this movie to a great movie. It's a great action movie, but it's not a great movie. It's still very good, very entertaining, just not as great as the first two in my opinion, but still, please go see John Wick 3. You're going to get satisfied with all the action and awesomeness, but at the same time, don't expect anything better than the first two.
A $14 million bounty on his head, and everyone in the city wants a piece of it. I say the odds are about even. Welcome back. Let's do this.
Overall, I'm going to be giving John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum a B+. I'm also going to give this movie on the entertainment scale an 8 out of 10 because there were a lot of really, really darn great moments, but there were also a lot of moments that I felt were quite boring. Guys, comment down below your opinions on John Wick Chapter 3. What is your favorite John Wick movie? The first two are pretty much interchangeable for me, and I do have reviews of both those two on my channel also, so definitely check those out. And of course, thank you for watching. Goodbye.